The Jeffersons moved on up and took television with it, sharper, louder, funnier, and bolder than many sitcoms of its time. George's attitude, Wheezy's heart, and that unforgettable theme song made the show feel alive from the very first note. But as the years passed, some actors battled devastating illnesses, others watched their careers collapse overnight, and a few passed away suddenly at the peak of their fame. Isabel Sanford as Louise Jefferson, George's warm, sharp-minded wife who could stop one of his loudest rants with a single look. Born in 1917 in New York City, she was 57 when The Jeffersons premiered in 1975. Louise brought balance to the Jefferson home. While George chased status, argued with neighbors, or got carried away, Wheezy kept him grounded without ever losing her kindness. Sanford later made television history as the first black woman to win the Emmy for Outstanding Lead Actress in a Comedy Series, a milestone that made her impact bigger than the sitcom itself. In her later years, she remained deeply loved by fans and continued making memorable television appearances. Isabel Sanford died of natural causes in 2004 at age 86. George may have filled the apartment with noise, but Louise gave it heart. Sanford turned patience, strength, and one perfectly timed side-eye into comedy gold. Paul Benedict as Harry Bentley, the Jeffersons' cheerful British neighbor whose polite visits somehow became George's newest headache. Born in 1938 in Silver City, New Mexico, he was 36 when the show began. Bentley rarely noticed when George wanted him gone. He would stroll in with an odd story, keep talking through every irritated glare, and leave the audience laughing at the awkwardness. Outside the Jeffersons, Benedict played the number painter on Sesame Street and enjoyed a respected career on Broadway, television, and in movies such as The Goodbye Girl. His angular face, gentle voice, and wonderfully offbeat timing made him instantly recognizable. Paul Benedict died from a brain hemorrhage in 2008 at age 70. Harry Bentley never had to shout or throw a punchline. He simply smiled, stayed too long, and watched George slowly lose every ounce of patience. Ned Wertimer as Ralph Hart, the mustachioed doorman who always seemed to have one hand ready for George Jefferson's next tip. Born in 1923 in Buffalo, New York, he was 51 when the Jeffersons began in 1975. Ralph knew exactly how to flatter the building's wealthiest residents, but George was never fooled by that extra friendly smile. Their constant tug-of-war over money turned even a quick elevator ride into classic sitcom business. Wertimer stayed with the series throughout its entire 11-season run, making Ralph one of the show's most familiar recurring faces. Beyond the apartment lobby, he appeared in favorites including I Dream of Jeannie, The Mary Tyler Moore Show, and Mork and Mindy. Long before television fame, Wertimer served as a United States Navy pilot during World War II. In his later years, the uniform was gone, but fans could still recognize the gentle expression behind Ralph's famously tip-hungry grin. Ned Wertimer died in 2013 at age 89 from complications following a serious fall at his home. Ralph may have opened the door for everyone, but when George walked by, he was always hoping a few dollars might open that wallet too. Danny Wells as Charlie, the easygoing neighborhood bartender who poured drinks, heard everybody's problems, and usually offered more patience than the customers deserved. Born in 1941 in Montreal, Canada, he was 33 when the Jeffersons launched in 1975. Charlie's bar became neutral territory whenever life upstairs got too loud. George could complain, brag, or stir up another mess, while Charlie stayed behind the counter, with the calm look of a man who had definitely heard worse. After the Jeffersons, Wells built an impressively varied career across television, movies, commercials, and voice acting. A younger generation knew him as Luigi in both the animated and live-action segments of the Super Mario Bros. Super Show. He continued working for decades, appearing in productions such as The A-Team, Murder, She Wrote, Private Benjamin, and Magnolia. That friendly face and laid-back delivery made even a small role feel instantly comfortable. Danny Wells died in Toronto in 2013 at age 72. His family and major contemporary reports did not publicly disclose a cause of death. From Charlie's Bar to the Mushroom Kingdom, Wells had a rare gift for making every strange neighborhood feel like home. Erwin Keyes as Hugo Mogilewski, the massive but lovably dim bodyguard, whose intimidating size was often much tougher than his actual personality. Born in 1952 in New York City, he was 29 when he joined the Jeffersons. Hugo looked like he could clear a room without saying a word, yet his confused reactions regularly turned the supposed muscle into the joke. That mismatch between a fearsome appearance and sweet cluelessness made him hard to forget. Keyes transformed that distinctive look into a long career playing heavies, henchmen, oddballs, and scene-stealing villains. His credits stretched from The Warriors and Friday the 13th to The Flintstones and Rob Zombie's House of 1,000 Corpses. Off-camera, colleagues described him as kind and gentle, the complete opposite of many of the threatening characters he portrayed. He even finished writing an autobiography and created paintings during the final chapter of his life. Erwin Keyes died in 2015 at age 63 from complications of acromegaly, a rare hormonal disorder he had lived with for years. Hugo may have been hired as the muscle, but Keyes proved that the biggest guy in the room could also deliver the warmest laugh. Zara Cully as Mother Jefferson, George's sharp-tongued, fiercely possessive mother who treated Louise like a rival for her son's attention. Born in 1892 in Worcester, Massachusetts, she was 82 when the Jeffersons premiered in 1975. Mother Jefferson could enter the apartment sweet as pie, praise George like he was royalty, then slip Louise a remark sharp enough to cut glass. Her mischievous smile always warned viewers that trouble was coming. Long before television found her, Cully had spent decades acting, teaching drama, directing plays, and building opportunities for black performers. She was already a seasoned stage veteran when sitcom audiences finally discovered her. Even after suffering a collapsed lung and severe pneumonia, she returned to the series with the same spark fans loved. Zara Cully died from lung cancer in 1978 at age 86. George was a grown man with his own business and a deluxe apartment, but one word from his mother could still turn him into her little boy. Cully made every guilt trip, sly insult, and motherly grin land beautifully. Sherman Hemsley as George Jefferson, the swaggering, hot-headed dry-cleaning king who moved on up and made sure everybody knew it. Born in 1938 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, he was 36 when the Jeffersons began in 1975. George strutted through life like the whole East Side belonged to him. Whether sparring with Florence, arguing with Tom Willis, or launching another half-baked scheme, his confidence was always bigger than the room. Once the series ended, Hemsley found another major sitcom role as the stubborn Deacon Ernest Fry on Amen. He also returned as George on several shows, proving that the famous walk and explosive attitude still worked. Unlike his loud television alter ego, Hemsley was known off-camera as quiet, private, and generous with his co-stars. He died from complications of lung cancer in 2012 at age 74. George Jefferson was cocky, difficult, hilarious, and impossible to ignore. Sherman Hemsley didn't simply play a sitcom character, he gave American television one of its most recognizable walks, voices, and personalities. Bernard Fox as Andrew Derrick, the distinguished British mystery writer caught up in George Jefferson's wonderfully chaotic cruise ship murder adventure. Born in 1927 in Port Talbot, Wales, he was 55 when he appeared on The Jeffersons in 1982. With his polished accent and old-school charm, Andrew looked far more qualified to solve a mystery than George. Naturally, that only made George more determined to prove he was the smartest detective aboard the ship. Fox had already become a television favorite as the eccentric Dr. Bombay on Bewitched and the bumbling Colonel Crittenden on Hogan's Heroes. His career stretched across stage, television, animation, and major movies. He later appeared in Titanic, decades after playing a sailor in the earlier disaster film A Night to Remember. Bernard Fox died of heart failure in 2016 at age 89. Andrew Derrick only joined the Jeffersons for a two-part story, but Fox brought enough British charm to make the mystery feel bigger, classier, and just a little more ridiculous. The perfect playground for George. Jason Bernard as Lloyd Tyndall, the smooth-talking con man whose fake investment scheme sent George and Tom on one of their wildest adventures. Born in 1938 in Chicago, Illinois, he was 45 when he appeared in The Jeffersons in 1983. Lloyd knew how to dress up a scam with confidence, charm, and just enough fancy talk to make it sound legitimate. Unfortunately for him, George Jefferson was far too stubborn to stay fooled for long. Bernard became a dependable character actor across television and film, appearing in Cagney and Lacey, The Flash, Murder, She Wrote, and the Steve Martin comedy All of Me. He also completed a memorable role in Liar Liar shortly before his death. With his commanding voice and calm authority, Bernard could play a police chief, businessman, or crook without ever feeling predictable. He died from an apparent heart attack in 1996 at age 58. Lloyd Tyndall may have believed he could outsmart George, but trying to hustle television's most suspicious dry cleaner was never going to be easy money. Carroll O'Connor as Archie Bunker, George Jefferson's loud, stubborn former neighbor, whose outdated opinions could turn a casual conversation into a neighborhood showdown. Born in 1924 in the Bronx, New York, he was 50 as the Jeffersons entered the picture in 1975. Archie and George could barely agree on the weather, let alone race, politics, or who had the bigger mouth. Their arguments were sharp and uncomfortable, yet the chemistry between them helped television tackle subjects most sitcoms avoided. O'Connor played Archie across All in the Family and Archie Bunker's Place, winning 4 Emmys for the role. He later reinvented himself as Police Chief Bill Gillespie in the Heat of the Night, and earned a 5th Emmy. Off-screen, O'Connor was educated, liberal, and far more soft-spoken than Archie. After losing his son Hugh, he became a vocal campaigner against drug abuse. O'Connor died from a heart attack in 2001 at age 76, with diabetes contributing to his declining health. Archie Bunker could make George furious before finishing one sentence. Together, they turned 2 hard-headed neighbors yelling across a room into fearless American television. Barry Ingham as Captain Marshall Monahan, the polished cruise captain suddenly stuck managing a murder mystery, and George Jefferson's enthusiastic attempt to solve it. Born in 1932 in Halifax, Yorkshire, England, he was 50 during his 1982 appearance on The Jeffersons. Monahan brought order, authority, and proper British composure to the ship, even as George treated the investigation like his personal detective movie. Watching the captain keep a straight face around all that chaos was half the fun. Ingham's career moved easily between Shakespeare, Broadway musicals, British television, and Hollywood. Disney fans still know his rich, theatrical voice as Basil, the brilliant mouse detective in The Great Mouse Detective. Tall, elegant, and classically trained, he carried the presence of an old-school leading man well into his later work. Barry Ingham died in 2015 at age 82. His family announced his passing but did not publicly disclose the cause. Captain Monahan only stayed for a brief voyage, but Ingham made the cruise feel like a proper British mystery. Right up until George came charging in and turned it back into the Jeffersons. Mike Evans as Lionel Jefferson, George and Louise's quick-witted son, who could challenge his father's opinions without ever backing down. Born in 1949 in Salisbury, North Carolina, he was 25 when he carried Lionel from All in the Family into the Jeffersons. Lionel often served as the calm voice between George and the Willis family, but he had his father's stubborn streak when it counted. His playful confidence made even the show's toughest conversations about race and family feel human. Evans stepped away from the role for several seasons, yet his influence reached far beyond Lionel. Alongside Eric Monte, he co-created Good Times, helping bring another groundbreaking black family sitcom to American television. He later returned to the Jeffersons and made occasional screen appearances before turning much of his attention to real estate. Mike Evans died from throat cancer in 2006 at age 57. Lionel could tease George, reason with him, or beat him at his own argument, all before dinner. Evans gave the Jefferson family a younger voice that was clever enough to move with the times. Marla Gibbs as Florence Johnston, the Jeffersons' hilariously unmotivated maid who always had more energy for roasting George than cleaning the apartment. Born in 1931 in Chicago, Illinois, she entered the role at 43. Florence could leave the dust exactly where it was, fire off one razor-sharp comeback, and walk away like she had completed a full day's work. Her battles with George became some of the sitcom's biggest crowd-pleasers. Gibbs turned that breakout role into a remarkable second act, starring in and co-producing 227. She later appeared in shows such as The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Scandal, Grey's Anatomy, and This Is Us. Now 95, she remains active, funny, and deeply connected to her fans. After surviving a brain aneurysm and stroke in 2006, Gibbs recovered, returned to acting, and shared her journey in the memoir It's Never Too Late. Florence may not have cleaned much, but she swept through every scene she entered. More than 50 years later, Marla Gibbs still has the timing, sparkle, and attitude that made George nervous. Berlinda Tolbert as Jenny Willis Jefferson, Lionel's thoughtful, independent girlfriend and later wife, who stood at the center of two very different families. Born in 1949 in Charlotte, North Carolina, she was 25 during the show's first season. As the daughter of Tom and Helen Willis, Jenny often had to navigate George's prejudice, Lionel's decisions, and the pressures surrounding their interracial family. She handled it with warmth, patience, and a backbone stronger than anyone expected. After leaving the Jefferson apartment behind, Tolbert appeared in Harlem Nights, Goodfellas, Patriot Games, and television favorites including ER, 6 Feet Under, and CSI, Crime Scene Investigation. Now 76, she has largely stepped away from acting and lives a quieter life in her native Charlotte. Off-screen, she shares a lasting love story with journalist Bob Reed, whom she married only 11 days after they met. Jenny never needed George's volume to make her point. Tolbert gave the series a grounded young woman who connected generations, challenged assumptions, and made the Jefferson family tree a whole lot more interesting. Damon Evans as Lionel Jefferson, George and Louise's level-headed son who could push back against his father without turning every disagreement into a shouting match. Born in 1949 in Baltimore, Maryland, he was 26 when he stepped into the role. Taking over a character audiences already knew was a tough gig, but Evans never tried to copy Mike Evans. His Lionel felt smoother, calmer, and a little more grown-up, especially when George's temper started running the room. Away from the Jefferson family, Evans followed his love of music and theater. His trained singing voice led him to Broadway and major stage productions, giving him a career that reached far beyond one famous sitcom. Now 77, he has largely stayed out of the Hollywood spotlight. Even so, fans still remember the quiet confidence he brought to Lionel during some of the character's biggest family moments. Damon Evans didn't try to beat George at the volume game. He played Lionel like a son who knew exactly when to let his father talk, and exactly when to hit him with the truth. Ernest Hardin Jr. as Marcus Henderson, the streetwise young employee who tested George's patience almost as often as he worked at Jefferson Cleaners. Born in 1952 in Detroit, Michigan, he was 25 when Marcus joined the show. Marcus came in carrying attitude, quick comebacks, and a serious dislike of being told what to do. Underneath all that swagger, though, he was a young man who needed someone to believe he could do better. After the Jeffersons, Hardin kept popping up in television and movies, often bringing a relaxed, believable edge to smaller roles. Many viewers later recognized him from the basketball comedy White Men Can't Jump. Now 74, he still speaks warmly about the sitcom and the people who made it. Off-camera, his easygoing personality is a long way from Marcus, who always looked one bad shift away from walking out. Marcus gave George something he rarely expected, a chance to be a mentor. George complained the whole way through, of course, but Hardin made it clear that behind the yelling, he genuinely cared about the kid. Garrett Morris as Jimmy, the slick-talking hustler who showed up with a sad story and nearly played the entire Jefferson family. Born in 1937 in New Orleans, Louisiana, he was 46 when he appeared on the series. Jimmy knew Louise had a soft heart, George had a suspicious mind, and both could be worked with the right story. Morris played him with such charm that even while viewers knew something was off, they still enjoyed watching the scam unfold. By then, Morris was already famous as one of the original cast members of Saturday Night Live. He later brought his big voice and fearless timing to Martin, The Jamie Foxx Show, and Two Broke Girls. Now 89, he remains one of comedy's most recognizable survivors, still sharp, outspoken, and quick with a story. Decades of television have not dulled that mischievous spark audiences first noticed. Jimmy walked into the Jefferson home pretending to need help and almost left with everyone fooled. Garrett Morris made the whole con feel less like a crime and more like one very funny hustle. Ebony Smith as Jessica Jefferson, Lionel and Jenny's bright-eyed daughter who brought a softer, sweeter energy into the Jefferson family. Born in 1978 in Puerto Rico, she was just 5 when she first appeared on the show. Jessica was still a little kid, but putting her in the middle of George, Louise, Lionel, and Jenny instantly made the family feel bigger. Even George's toughest attitude melted a bit when his granddaughter was around. After the Jeffersons, Smith continued acting through the 1980s and 1990s. She appeared in Lethal Weapon, Webster, and Family Matters, later becoming widely remembered as Malila Whitley in the cult comedy The Ladies' Man. Now 48, she has mostly stepped away from the spotlight and keeps her personal life private. Fans who remember her as Little Jessica are often surprised by how much time has passed since those apartment scenes. Jessica didn't need George's loud voice or Florence's sharp comebacks to stand out. Ebony Smith gave the Jefferson clan something it rarely had: 5 quiet seconds and one seriously adorable grandchild. Edie McClurg as Audrey Bloom, a lively guest character who brought her unmistakable Midwestern warmth and comic awkwardness into George Jefferson's already unpredictable world. Born in 1945 in Kansas City, Missouri, she was 37 during her appearance. McClurg had a gift for making an ordinary line sound funny before the punchline even arrived. That cheerful voice, nervous smile, and slightly frazzled energy made her feel familiar the moment she entered a scene. She later became one of Hollywood's busiest character actresses, appearing in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, Back to School, and Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. Her voice work included The Little Mermaid, A Bug's Life, and Cars. Now 81, McClurg has been living away from public life while dealing with dementia. Her career, however, remains everywhere, from classic comedies to animated films that families still watch today. Audrey Bloom was only one stop in a career packed with memorable neighbors, teachers, secretaries, and moms. Edie McClurg could walk into a scene for 2 minutes and somehow leave with the biggest laugh. Liz Torres as Elena Beltran, a spirited young woman whose confidence and fiery personality fit right into the fast-talking world of the Jeffersons. Born in 1947 in New York City, she was 28 when she appeared on the sitcom. Elena had the kind of energy that could go toe-to-toe with George without getting swallowed by the noise. Torres gave her a street-smart edge, quick reactions, and the feeling that she had already heard every excuse in the book. Outside the series, Torres built a long career across comedy, drama, music, and theater. She became especially familiar as Mahalia Sanchez on The John Larroquette Show and later as Miss Patty, Stars Hollow's proudly flirtatious dance teacher on Gilmore Girls. Now 79, she remains instantly recognizable to generations of television fans. Her style has changed over the years, but that bold delivery and larger-than-life presence still make her impossible to confuse with anyone else. Elena may have been a brief visitor, but Liz Torres never played anything small. She brought New York attitude, perfect timing, and enough personality to make even George Jefferson take notice. Lydia Nicole as Rachel, the fearless young gang leader who helped turn George Jefferson's bad day on the street into a 2-part neighborhood showdown. Born in 1959 in New York City, she was 22 when the episodes aired in 1982. Rachel carried herself like she owned the block, and George's usual bluster did not scare her one bit. Watching him try to recover Louise's stolen ring while staying one step ahead of her crew gave the story its fast, streetwise energy. Nicole went on to appear in Stand and Deliver, Hollywood Shuffle, Indecent Proposal, and other film and television projects. She also worked behind the camera as a producer and built a second career as a comedian, speaker, and acting mentor. As of 2026, is 66 and still shares the hard-earned lessons of more than 4 decades in entertainment. Through Acting Smarter Now, she helps performers handle the business side of Hollywood without losing their voice or confidence. Rachel only crossed paths with George for a brief adventure, but she never felt like an easy opponent. Nicole gave the role enough swagger and bite to make George realize that, for once, talking louder was not going to save him. Andrew Rubin as Alan Willis, Tom and Helen's easygoing son, whose return home reopened some uncomfortable questions about race, identity, and where he fit within the Willis family. Born in 1946 in New Bedford, Massachusetts, he was 28 during his 1975 guest appearance. Alan looked white, unlike his sister Jenny, and George wasted no time making the situation awkward. Rubin played him with a relaxed charm that kept the episode funny while allowing the family's deeper tension to land without feeling like a lecture. After leaving the Willis apartment, Rubin became best known as the smooth-talking cadet George Martin in the original Police Academy. He also worked steadily in television, movies, and Los Angeles theater, proving he had far more range than one charming ladies' man. In his later years, Rubin stepped away from the Hollywood grind and spent time traveling with his wife, including an extended stay with an Aboriginal community in Australia. Andrew Rubin died from lung cancer in 2015 at age 69. Alan's visit was short, but the questions surrounding him were anything but simple. Rubin brought warmth to a story that showed how even one of television's most progressive families could still have a few things to figure out. Roxie Roker as Helen Willis, the elegant, quick-witted neighbor who loved Tom deeply and refused to let George's prejudice ruin her day. Born in 1929 in Miami, Florida, she was 45 when she began playing Helen in 1975. Helen could answer George's nastiest remark with a calm smile and a comeback that hit twice as hard. Her marriage to Tom gave primetime audiences a rare interracial couple who felt loving, funny, imperfect, and genuinely lived in. Before television fame, Roker earned acclaim on stage, winning an Obie and receiving a Tony nomination for The River Niger. She later appeared in Roots, Fantasy Island, and A Different World, while also becoming a committed advocate for children's welfare. During her final years, she remained every bit as graceful as fans remembered, and stayed close to her son, musician Lenny Kravitz. Roxie Roker died from breast cancer in 1995 at age 66. Helen never needed George's approval, and that was exactly why their scenes worked. Roxie Roker brought class, backbone, and real-life experience to the role, then delivered every comeback like she had already won the argument. Franklin Cover as Tom Willis, George Jefferson's kind-hearted neighbor and favorite verbal punching bag, who somehow stayed calm through every insult. Born in 1928 in Cleveland, Ohio, he was 46 during the show's first season. Tom's laid-back nature made him the perfect contrast to George's explosive personality. He rarely raised his voice, but when he finally pushed back, the quiet comeback usually landed harder than all of George's shouting. After the Jeffersons, Cover continued working in television, film, and theater. He appeared in The Stepford Wives, Wall Street, ER, Living Single, and Will and Grace, becoming one of those dependable faces viewers instantly recognized. In his later years, poor health gradually pulled him away from acting. Franklin Cover died from pneumonia in 2006 at age 77, while also dealing with a long-term heart condition. Tom Willis never needed to out-talk George. Cover played him like a man who knew the argument was ridiculous, let George burn through all that energy, then answered with one calm line, and walked away smiling. Their laughter, courage, and unforgettable performances helped make The Jeffersons a true TV classic. Thank you for watching. Share which actor you remember most, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more classic TV stories.